land shows you glory, tells of who you are. It's the love of the Maker, shaping who we are. Because you hold the world inside of your hands, you can move mountains at your command. You hold the world inside of your hands, you can move mountains at your command. God of glory, you are wonderful, wonderful. Christ the mighty King of all the universe. You are holy, you are powerful, powerful. Lift our praises to the God of all, God of all, God of all the earth. God of all the earth. Lift our praises to the God of all, God of all, God of all the earth. You hold the world up, so we lift your praise up. You hold the world up, so we lift your praise up. You hold the world up, so we lift your praise up. You hold the world up, so we lift your praise up. God of glory, you are wonderful, wonderful. Christ the mighty King of all the universe. You are holy, you are powerful, powerful. Lift our praises to the God of all, God of all, God of all the earth. God of all the earth. God of all the earth. Lift our praises to the God of all, God of all, God of all the earth. Lift our praises to the God of all, God of all, God of all the earth.
I spent so many summers trying to fit in, looking for some meaning in anything. I was feeling empty, Jesus, then you met me, you called my name. Burning like a fire, I just can't deny it, I found my place. Here with you, I'm right where I belong. Here with you, I'll never be alone.
When I look back, I can see your hand all over my past. Even in the times I'd rather forget, I just can't believe you'd love me like that, love me like that. You never let go. Thought I was alone, now I know you were close. I can see it now, you were bringing me home. I just can't believe you'd love me like that, love me like that. Oh, every day gets better when I'm walking with you. Oh, you're my hope forever, what a beautiful view. I will give you praise for the things you've done, and every single way that you've shown me love. God, you have only just begun. So come on, there's so much better to come. So much better to come. So much better to come. When I look back, I can see your hand all over my past. Even in the times I'd rather forget, I just can't believe you'd love me like that, love me like that. You never let go. Thought I was alone, now I know you were close. I can see it now, you were bringing me home. I just can't believe you'd love me like that, love me like that. Oh, every day gets better when I'm walking with you. Oh, you're my hope forever, what a beautiful view. I will give you praise for the things you've done, and every single way that you've shown me love. God, you have only just begun. So come on, there's so much better to come. So much better to come. So much better to come. You never left me. You always helped me. Got through the fire. I find my strength when I'm walking beside you. You never left me. You always helped me. Got through the fire. I find my strength when I'm walking beside you. I will give you praise for the things you've done, and every single way that you've shown me love. God, you have only just begun. So come on, there's so much better to come. So much better to
I'm so grateful for your patience, all the ways you carry me. You have always left a light on, so I can see. You wait for me.
I'm invited to the table. You are saving me a seat. In your house, I know I'm worthy, 'cause you died for me. You set me free.
No matter where I run, grace will follow. The Father's love is all I know. I never need to doubt that you want me. You are standing here saying, welcome home. Welcome home. No matter where I run, grace will follow. The Father's love is all I know. I never need to doubt that you want me. You are standing here saying, welcome home.
I'm so thankful for your kindness. Your forgiveness when I'm weak. With open arms I am accepted, 'cause you run to me, you cover me. I forever run toward the one who calls me home. Everything I'm longing for is in you. You have
Welcome to Church at Home.
Hello, everybody. So great to have you with us. And a special shout out to anybody who's joining us for the first time. So good.
Yes.
Like 4 hellos.
We are
all in
pumped
one.
to see you.
Yes. Yay to you being here.
Yep.
And we're all about making new friends. So don't be a stranger.
Yes, we
It's-
want to know all
yeah.
about you. Let us know where you're tuning in from in the comments.
Could be Mexico.
Yeah, it could be.
Special hi to all my Mexican friends. Hola.
I was trying to think of what it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, we would love to meet you, even if you're from Australia.
True.
And if you want to know a little bit more about who we are as a church and maybe get involved, please hit the link in the description and click connect with us. Don't worry, we're not going to spam your inbox with dog walking tips or pictures of our lunch.
Unless-
I mean, Jacob, no, I will stop Jacob from sending you pictures
She'll
of your
try.
lunch, don't worry. But there really is heaps going on around here if you want to get involved. There's something for everyone,
Yes,
pretty much,
every
from
person.
babies all the way up to those of you who are in the prime of your lives,
Yeah.
60 plus.
Even like if we had a guest that was 121 years old, or I don't know who the oldest person in the world is right
Yeah.
now, it's something for you.
They'd be so welcome.
They should be like, instead of prime timers, like the ultra timers.
Yeah, like ultimate prime timers.
Anyone 100 plus, it's
Yeah,
like
they get a ministry of their own.
unlimited ticket to
Love
something. Unlimited copies. If you're 100 plus, I'll give you free copies
For sure,
the
for
rest
life.
of the year. Yeah. Anyway, we've got heaps going on, and if you've been around for the last couple of months or the last 100 years,
Yep.
you might remember us talking about setting up the Frankston Winter Night Shelter with a couple of other local churches. Well, we are so excited because the program has been running since mid-June, and we've got Sally here to give us an update on how it's been going.
Well, hello again. We thought it was time to give you an update on the Frankston Winter Shelter that we have piloted back in June. We're a little late starting because of permits, but I'm pleased to inform you that we have actually been running out of one venue since mid-June, Monday night through to Friday morning. Unfortunately, our own active building has hit a few complications regarding an overnight permit, but we are confident by next year we will be able to host guests a couple of nights along with a few other buildings that will enable us to run more nights than this year. It can take up to 20 volunteers each night from many churches in the general community arriving between 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. to help set up the venue, cook a meal, pick up the guests by bus from a Frankston car park, and to host our guests over that meal that we've made and enjoy their company until it's bedtime. Lights are out at 10 p.m. Another 3 volunteers then arrive at 10 p.m. to sleep overnight to keep our guests safe until morning, when they then tag team with another 3 or 4 volunteers to get there at 7 a.m. to wake up our guests, which sometimes can be a little bit tricky. We provide a brekkie and prepare snacks for them to take for the day, pack up and then drive them back to Frankston at 8:30 a.m. We have been given a bus with 2 showers for the guests to enjoy, which they have loved having, and even a hairdresser came one night to cut their hair. We have had 20 guests register in total for the night winter shelter through the agencies within Frankston, and it has been lovely to see some of those registered become regulars, and others have now been provided with permanent housing. We get an average of between 3 and 5 guests each night, and we had one lady who returned after receiving housing over in Cranbourne to join us for a meal, who ended up staying the night to enjoy the warmth of not only a safe bed but a community of love and acceptance she had experienced while with us. And she is an actual hoot to be around. The organising has been massive, as you can imagine, and the financial generosity of our churches, along with the general community, has been huge. Some of the local businesses donating the meal for the evening. The joy to provide guests with a warm bed, a safe environment, and nourishing food, but most of all the love and acceptance that Jesus desires us to show those who are struggling, has been beyond words. I want to give a big thank you to all those who have organised, rostered, volunteered, donated and prayed. It has taken much work, but it has been worth it to extend the love of Christ and to make a difference to those doing it tough in our community. A big thank you to all.
Wow, how awesome is it to hear of the impact we're having in our own community for those who are doing it tough.
So amazing. And I really love seeing the community, even outside of the church,
Yeah.
just getting so excited to help others. You know, from volunteering to donating goods and donating finances.
Yeah.
It's been amazing.
All into this together.
Yeah.
Huge crew. And it's really cool to see God moving. And hey, if you need to see God move in your life, send through a prayer request. Because good or bad, we'd love to stand with you in prayer, and just hit that link to get prayer, or head to our app, whatever it is, we'd love to pray with you.
Exactly. Do not do life alone.
Yeah.
And hey, we do have a special someone joining us today.
Marcy, you look very excited to be
I'm
here.
very
Do
excited.
share.
Free. It has been 4 years since the Senior Gateway Theatre Company has done a show, and we are doing one this year. We are doing Godspell.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, how exciting.
Godspell's an amazing show. It was written in the 70s and was redone in 2012, and it's actually a Broadway show based on the Gospel of Matthew. So
That's awesome.
it's a story of Jesus, but full of fun and laughter and great music and
Good musical number as well.
Oh yeah,
Excellent.
Yeah, bit of
I haven't actually seen Godspell, so I'm really excited.
Oh, yeah,
This is one of the ones I've never been to
It's one
see.
of those classic
Yes.
musicals you do have to see. So invite your friends. It's going to be on in September.
Amazing.
It'll be amazing.
Oh, cannot wait. So if you want any more info about that, please head to the link in our app and you can get your tickets and get all the goss.
And hey, church fam, those who see this church as home, can I encourage you to head to the link or the app for your weekly giving. I love that this church is a generous church, and we see the joy in giving and playing our part, no matter how big or small. So thank you to everyone who's set up an ongoing situation that makes all the difference as well. Huge congrats for making that automated. Big fan.
Yeah.
But this is our moment to flick over and give our money now if you haven't already.
Thank you for that reminder. I very much appreciate that. And hey, I've been really enjoying this series, Living Your Best Life.
Living it.
In fact, I've been living my best life just by being part of this series. But I'm so keen to hear what Rick has to share around pride and humility today.
Yeah.
But first, let's worship.
Come on.
We will dance in the joy of the Lord, for you are the victory. At the precious name of Jesus, every chain is broken free. We will sing, we will shout at the top of our lungs. You have walked us through the night. So now every generation walk by faith and not by sight. Oh. We will dance in the joy of the Lord, for you are the victory. At the precious name of Jesus, every chain is broken free. We will sing, we will shout at the top of our lungs. You have walked us through the night. So now every generation walk by faith and not by sight. All our praise to you alone. You're the one that never fails. You are the God of endless hope. All our praise to you alone. You're the one that never fails. You are the God of endless hope. Oh. You are the God of endless hope. We will run in the light of the sun. We will walk in all your ways until every heart awakens to the glory of your face. We will go to the ends of the earth to declare that Christ is King. To the light into the darkness, so that every soul will sing. All our praise to you alone. You're the one that never fails. You are the God of endless hope. All our praise to you alone. You're the one that
the God who was. We worship the God who is. We worship the God who evermore will be. He opened the prison doors. He parted the raging seas. My God, He holds the victory. Yeah. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We shout out our praise. Oh, oh, oh. We shout out our praise. We sing to the God who heals. We sing to the God who saves. We sing to the God who always makes a way. 'Cause He hung upon that cross and He rose up from that grave. My God is still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out our praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. Oh, we were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be tired. We shout out our praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We shout out our praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out our praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We shout out our praise. Oh, oh, oh. We shout out your praise. We shout out your praise. Oh, oh, oh. We shout out your praise. We shout out your praise.
Well, good morning. As a young man, I worked in the bank as a lending officer. I liked our customers and loved helping to figure out their finance needs, especially home loans and small business loans. I was quite good at it. After some time, a colleague was promoted to the next level above me, and I found myself miffed that I wasn't chosen. It started to affect my sense of worth, and it dented my ego. It took me a few months, but I finally summoned up the courage to go to speak to the boss about it. I made my case, pointed out that I had more experience and better qualifications, and asked why he hadn't chosen me. He listened patiently, and then he did something I didn't expect. He quoted the Bible to me. He said, "I know you're a Christian, Rick, so perhaps you'll understand this phrase. Pride comes before a fall. There's lots of competition in this department. Just don't let it distract you from doing your best." Whoa. Now, my boss must have seen how genuinely shocked I was And so a wry smile came over his face as he then said, "Be thankful you realise this now, because bank managers can't afford to let pride affect their judgment." I still didn't get his point, probably embarrassed at my own pride. So he added this: "We didn't progress you in this department because we're promoting you to manager on the lending team at head office. You start next month." Suffice to say, I never forgot the lesson. Now, it's not like my pride fall had led me to commit fraud, but it almost undermined my career. And I was devastated at my own lack of self-awareness. And I felt I had not been a good Christian witness to my boss. To be honest, I was surprised at how pride had entered my thinking at all. With the benefit of hindsight and experience, I now know pride runs deep in all human hearts. But if everyone is prideful, what's the big deal? Well, here's what the Bible says about it. From Proverbs it says, "Your boast becomes a prophecy of future failure. The higher you lift yourself up in pride, the harder you'll fall in disgrace." Pride at its core is an obsession with self. It generates a toxic desire in us to protect and compete and pretend and inflate and distort truth and brag. Now, it can be easy to see this trait in outgoing and expressive people, but introverts are no less susceptible. Pride lives in every human heart. As seen in the origin story of Adam and Eve, pride is the root of rebellion against God. It also sets us against other people and ultimately undermines our own best interests. In short, pride prevents us from living our best life. And unaddressed, pride will damage many things we care about or should care about. It will affect our empathy, stifle our compassion, foster jealousy, and breed insecurity while making us think that these things are justifiable attitudes. So here's 4 things pride will make you do. First, it will make you compare yourself to others. You therefore see yourself as superior or inferior to other people. Secondly, it will make you believe you're only as good as what you do. As someone said, when pride drives your identity, success goes to your head and failure goes to your heart. Thirdly, pride will prevent you from celebrating other people's achievements. Now, modern culture influences us to strive to always be number one in our own life. But pride sees life as a zero-sum game. That is, if someone wins, you lose. And fourth, it will harden your heart against good advice and blind you to your bad choices. You think the rules don't apply to you, or you can break them without consequence. If you ever read the stories in the Bible, you'll soon discover that the condition of the human heart is a recurring theme, and things don't always go well, even for those who believe God. Let me share with you a great story. King David is perhaps the greatest king Israel ever had. He took a ragtag bunch of exiles and led them into a golden age of faith and influence. He did this all while maintaining a humble and a pure heart, until he didn't. Instead of leading his people into battle against enemy nations, he stayed in the palace to indulge himself in the comforts and power and prestige. After all, he said, "I've earned it." Well, things changed. One day he was on the rooftop and saw a gorgeous woman bathing in her garden. Her husband was away with the army where David should have been, so he called her to his room, seduced her, and she got pregnant to him. Things got worse. To cover up the sin, he called her husband, whose name was Uriah, to come home so people would think he was the father. But Uriah didn't go to his wife when he came home. Things got worse. in desperation, David had Uriah killed in battle. So David marries Bathsheba, who was the woman. But things got worse. Their child dies, and David falls into a great depression. Well, things still got worse. David, the leader who did more things right than wrong, had let pride harden his heart, and something inside of him broke. He went from the wisest of his generation to perhaps the most foolish. But things got worse. The Bible records he was never the same after that, even though he later repented to God. The consequences couldn't be reversed, and his whole family seemed to go into a tailspin of betrayal and treason and sexual violence. The man who was once referred to as a man after God's own heart began to seek his own, with tragic consequences. Well, that's a Bible story. What about now? In 2022, we see pride in the fall of politicians, business people, and even church leaders. And don't believe the lie that pride falls only happen to the big, well-known, successful people in those areas, as if bigger profiles and more success causes the problem. It doesn't. In over 40 years of ministry, I have sadly witnessed many small business people and leaders of small churches crash and burn due to prideful decisions, and many more who have no profile at all also fall. The Bible reveals we are all susceptible. The problem is the human heart. In Jeremiah we read, "The human heart is the most deceitful of all things and desperately wicked. Who really knows how bad it is?" And in Proverbs we read before, "The higher you lift yourself up in pride, the harder you'll fall in disgrace." So, what can we do? To give ourselves the best chance to prevent falling, we must develop humility. Only humility can get you out of what pride got you into. And there are a few ways that we can gain humility. First, you can learn it from a young age and build your character over time. This is pretty rare, but if that's you, congratulations. But for the rest of us, humility can come to us in two main ways. Secondly, through involuntary means, that is, to be caused to be humble or humiliated. This is when something or someone bursts our pride bubble. It was how it went down for me in my early banking career. If this is your experience too, you'll probably want to put as much distance between yourself and the humbling innocent as quickly as possible. Now, this is not an entirely bad thing if we take the time to learn the lessons. Otherwise, as we saw in the story of King David, pride returns as soon as the bruises on our ego fade. And thirdly, the best way to invite humility is to develop humble habits if we cultivate humility. Humility only dwells in our hearts if we invite it to, if we accept it and lean into it. Otherwise, we are tempted to repeat history. Why? Because pride and sin look glamorous and promise benefits. If it didn't, no one would do it. But it only looks good to us. To everyone else looking on, it makes us look ugly. How do we cultivate humble habits? I think follow the ways of Jesus. Jesus calls us to the kind of life that is shocking to modern thinking. He says humility is about giving up your life, giving up your rights for his sake and for the sake of others. Jesus said, "For if you let your life go for my sake and for the sake of the gospel, you will continually experience true life. But if you choose to keep your life for yourself, you will forfeit what you try to keep. For what use is it to proudly gain all the wealth and power of this world with everything it could offer you at the cost of your own soul?" That's in the Gospel of Mark. It's not easy, this following of Jesus. And sometimes we have to adopt his ways by an act of faith before we see lasting results and it becomes more natural to us. So here's 4 habits that, if practiced, will lead you closer to humility, to being like Jesus. First, practice gratitude. You know, as kids, we were grateful because we knew we couldn't provide for ourselves, so anything we got was like, wow. As we grew and studied and worked hard, we had money and began to buy and accumulate. And all of a sudden, we started to think we earned what we had, and gratitude kind of went out the door. However, gratitude fosters humility because it moves us out of the starring role in our own story. In Deuteronomy, we can read, "You should never say to yourself, 'I have achieved my wealth with my own strength and energy.' Remember the Lord your God, for he is the one who gives you the power to be successful." The second way of humility is to take the lower place. I remember working in a transport company while I studied at uni part-time. This is before I went into the bank. Soon I became aware that while the drivers ate in the factory, supervisors ate in a dining room. And when I asked my manager why this was, he told me, "Son, rank has its privileges. But one supervisor always ate with us and often stayed back to help us finish unloading the trucks." When I asked him why, as he was our boss, he said, "There's no job too big and no job too small." Without knowing it, he had the humble habits of Jesus. And you won't be surprised who the men respected more. Jesus said, "Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave, just as I did not come to be served, but to serve and to give my life as a ransom for many." The third way of humility is be a learner. Pride will blind you into thinking you can only learn from someone you think is above you. Otherwise, you'll say, "Well, what do they know? Who are they to give me advice?" I'll never forget being at a major international conference and listening to this world-class keynote speaker. Fantastic. Then he sat down and a little-known leader got up to do the next session, to share some thoughts. So I put my notepad away, expecting I could learn little from him. But I noticed the keynote speaker who just sat down took out a pen and pad and started to take notes on this fellow. And I thought, well, if he thinks he can learn something at this stage in life, who am I to think I can't? In Proverbs it says, "The wise become wiser and become leaders by exploring the depths and meaning of truth. Only fools refuse to be taught." Next, we should seek God's wisdom. The Apostle James was Jesus' brother and leader in the Jerusalem church, and he witnessed the example of Jesus' humble life, the power of his teaching, and servant heart firsthand. He later wrote this, "If you are wise and understand God's ways, prove it by living an honourable life, doing good works with the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you are bitterly jealous and there is selfish ambition in your heart, don't cover up the truth with boasting and lying. But the wisdom from God is first of all pure. It is also peace-loving, gentle at all times, and willing to yield to others. It is full of mercy and the fruit of good deeds. It shows no favoritism and is always sincere. And peacemakers will plant seeds of peace and reap a harvest of righteousness." That's from James chapter 3. It's easy to go around and look for pride in other people, isn't it? And feel superior? But those who look for pride first in themselves and seek to counteract it with humility will lead a richer, more fulfilling, and godly life. Humility comes to those who are grateful for all of life. It comes to those who seek God's wisdom in the stories and teachings of the Bible. It comes to those who take the posture of a learner in all situations, and to those who are willing to take a lower place, the role of a servant. They are well on the way to living their best life. And that is what following Jesus is all about.
I've carried a burden for too long on my own. I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation to let it all go. Yeah, I see it now. I'm laying it down, and I know that I need you. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again
So good. I love that.
Yeah.
I was the best listener.
You're the best at humility.
But yeah, when he said, when pride drives your identity, success goes to your head and failure goes to your heart.
I know, that's so good. That's so wise. I'm absolutely loving this series, Living Your Best Life. And hey, don't forget to actually live your best life and head to the link and get those Godspell tickets.
True. That is really living.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll get to see you next week, Sunday, 10 a.m. for Church at Home.
When I look back, I can see your hand all over my past. Even in the times I'd rather forget, I just can't believe you'd love me like that, love me like that. You never let go. Thought I was alone, now I know you were close. I can see it now, you were bringing me home. I just can't believe you'd love me like that, love me like that. Oh, every day gets better when I'm walking with you. Oh, you're my hope forever, what a beautiful view. I will give you praise for the things you've done, and every single way that you've shown me love. God, you have only just begun, so come on, there's so much better to come. So much better to come. So much better to come. When I look back, I can see your hand all over my past. Even in the times I'd rather forget, I just can't believe you'd love me like that, love me like that. You never let go. Thought I was alone, now I know you were close. I can see it now, you were bringing me home. I just can't believe you'd love me like that, love me like that. Oh, every day gets better when I'm walking with you.